Kat Pokras, and this is News Recap. No fluff, straight to the point.
Warning from President Trump. Networks could lose licenses if they criticize him. New York officials arrested during immigration protest. Remains found of father wanted in killing of his 3 daughters. Counterfeit products flood Walmart's online marketplace.
President Donald Trump suggested on Thursday that networks could lose their broadcast licenses if their hosts criticize him. He told reporters on board Air Force One, referring to late-night stars like Jimmy Kimmel, quote, "They're giving me all this bad press and they're getting a license. I would think maybe their license should be taken away. They're an arm of the Democrat Party." Late-night host fired back. Stephen Colbert called Kimmel's suspension blatant censorship. Fallon praised Kimmel and vowed to keep doing his show as usual, while Jon Stewart and Seth Meyers opted for satire.
Admired and respected Mr. Trump. I've always believed he was, a visionary, innovator, a great president, an even better golfer. And if you've ever seen me say anything negative about him, that's just AI.
David Letterman, Stephen Colbert's predecessor on The Late Show, slammed networks for their response to Jimmy Kimmel's suspension. Letterman said on Thursday that people shouldn't be fired just for refusing to suck up to what he called, quote, an authoritarian president. Democrats are accusing the Trump administration of attacking free speech. A group of senators introduced the No Political Enemies Act, which protects people targeted for their political views, holds government officials accountable for violating First Amendment rights, and allows victims to recover attorneys' fees. Even though the bill probably won't pass in the Republican-led Congress, Democrats used the news conference to slam the Trump administration for pressuring ABC to suspend Jimmy Kimmel's show after his comments on Charlie Kirk's death.
This is a decision moment for the country. Conservatives who say that they support democracy and free speech need to speak up right now. Our Republican colleagues need to put the health of our democracy before loyalty to their leader.
Democrats say this is part of a larger pattern. Since taking office, President Trump has gone after media with threats, lawsuits, and pressure, getting settlements, forcing costly legal battles, and pushing networks to change shows he didn't like. And speaking of suing media outlets, a federal judge has thrown out President Trump's $15 billion defamation lawsuit against the New York Times, saying it didn't follow federal rules. The judge called the 85-page complaint too long and full of attacks rather than a clear statement of facts. Trump's team has 4 weeks to refile, but the new version must be 40 pages or even less. The legal action accused the Times of being a mouthpiece for Democrats and also named Penguin Random House and 4 reporters, including 2 who wrote a book about Trump. Experts said the filing appeared more like a public relations move, more than a real legal case. Trump's legal team said they plan to refile and continue holding the Times accountable. New York Times executive editor Joe Kahn said Trump was wrong on the facts and wrong on the law and vowed we'll fight and we will win. More than a dozen elected officials were arrested on Thursday while protesting conditions at a New York City immigration holding facility. The protest followed a federal judge's order this week requiring the government to improve treatment of detainees. 11 officials, including City Controller Brad Lander and state legislators, were taken into custody while trying to inspect holding rooms on the 10th floor of Manhattan's 26th Federal Plaza. They were checking that ICE was following the court's order to fix overcrowding and poor conditions. Other officials, including City Public Advocate Jumaane Williams, were arrested outside the building. In total, more than 75 people were detained. The protest highlights ongoing concerns about conditions at immigration facilities and the efforts of elected officials to hold authorities accountable. The Senate made a big rule change on Thursday to speed up confirmations of President Trump's nominees. In a 51-47 party line vote, Republicans used the nuclear option, dropping the 60-vote threshold, so they can now confirm groups of nominees with a simple majority. The first batch, 48 people, was approved right away. Among them, former Congressman Brandon Williams as Undersecretary of Energy for Nuclear Security, former Fox News host Kimberly Guilfoyle as ambassador to Greece, and Callista Gingrich, wife of the former House Speaker, as ambassador to Switzerland and Liechtenstein. Republicans say Democrats were blocking even routine nominees. Majority Leader John Thune called it a broken process. Democrats fired back that Trump is choosing unqualified loyalists. Minority Leader Chuck Schumer called it a sad, regrettable day for the Senate. The new rules apply to Trump and future presidents, making it much easier for the majority party to push through its picks. The Trump administration is asking the Supreme Court to let the president fire Federal Reserve Board member Lisa Cook. In a court filing, Solicitor General John Sauer said blocking the firing was improper judicial interference. Trump argues Cook can be removed for cause. He points to mortgage fraud claims raised by his housing finance director, Bill Pulte. Cook has not been charged with any crime and denies the allegations. The White House says Trump lawfully removed her, but lower courts sided with Cook, saying she has a right to defend herself before losing her job. This is the first time any president has tried to fire a top Fed official. Economists warn it could rattle markets and threaten the Fed's independence, which is key to keeping interest rates stable. The fight comes just a day after the Fed cut interest rates, with Cook voting in favor. The Trump administration asked the Supreme Court to allow it to enforce a policy that removes the X option on U.S. passports. The rule requires passports to list a person's biological sex at birth, affecting transgender and non-binary people. A lower court blocked the policy, letting people pick M, F, or X to match their gender identity. The judge said Trump's rule likely violated equal protection rights and showed bias against transgender people. Trump's order defines sex as a person's biological classification as male or female. The State Department stopped issuing X passports and now requires M or F based on birth certificates. 7 transgender and non-binary people sued to keep the Biden-era rules. The Trump administration wants the Supreme Court to allow its policy while the case continues. President Trump said on Friday that he and Chinese President Xi Jinping made progress on a deal to keep TikTok available in the U.S. And he plans to visit Beijing early next year. The two leaders also discussed trade, the war in Ukraine, and fentanyl. A major point in the talks is TikTok's secret algorithm, which powers the app's recommendations. The U.S.-China deal could allow a U.S. company to use the algorithm under a licensing agreement, while TikTok's parent company, ByteDance, may still have some control. Experts say it would be like renting the algorithm rather than selling it. Trump has delayed enforcement of a 2024 law that would force ByteDance to sell TikTok or face a U.S. ban. Any agreement would need to ensure Chinese engineers cannot access U.S. user data, protecting national security. Both countries say the talks are moving forward, but details of the deal remain unclear. Taliban officials have rejected President Trump's suggestion that Bagram airfield near Kabul could return to U.S. control. The base abandoned during the 2021 U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan was the country's largest military installation. The Taliban said they are willing to discuss economic and political relations with the U.S., but no American troops will be allowed. Trump, speaking on Thursday in the United Kingdom alongside British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, called the base given to the Taliban for nothing and said, "We're trying to get it back." He added that one reason the U.S. wants the base is its proximity to where China produces nuclear weapons. but provided no further details. The Taliban's Deputy Minister of Information and Culture shared a poem on social media implying the U.S. has unfinished business in the country. U.S. officials have recently met with Taliban leaders in Kabul over American hostages. Trump has repeatedly criticized the 2021 withdrawal when 13 U.S. service members were killed in a suicide bombing at Kabul's airport. Starting next month, green card holders applying for U.S. citizenship will take a longer naturalization test. The 2025 civics test has more possible questions, 128 instead of just 100. Applicants will be asked 20 random questions, up from 10, and must get 12 right to pass, double the old requirement. It's still an oral test with a U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Service officer, but now, once someone answers enough questions to pass or to fail, the officer can stop the test early. USCIS says the changes make sure only immigrants who meet all requirements, including reading, writing, and speaking English and understanding U.S. civics, can become citizens. The new test focuses more on American history and government and drops geography questions. Authorities report they have found remains they believe are Travis Decker, the former soldier wanted in the deaths of his 3 daughters in Washington state. The Chelan County Sheriff's Office confirmed on Thursday that crime scene teams are processing the site and DNA testing will be used to verify the identity. Decker, 32, had been wanted since June 2nd when deputies discovered his truck and the bodies of his daughters, 9-year-old Peyton, 8-year-old Evelyn, and 5-year-old Olivia, at a campground outside Leavenworth. He failed to return the girls to their mother's homes 3 days earlier. Decker served in the Army from 2013 to 2021 and had survival and navigation training. Authorities noted he had previously lived off the grid for long periods. An autopsy determined the girls died from suffocation. They had been bound with zip ties and had plastic bags placed over their heads. A man in his 30s has died after riding a roller coaster at Universal Orlando Resort's new park, Epic Universe. The Orlando's area medical examiner ruled the death an accident after performing an autopsy. No details were given about the injuries. The man was found unresponsive on Wednesday after riding the Stardust Racers coaster, which reaches speeds up to 62 miles per hour. He was taken to a hospital where he was pronounced dead. Universal Orlando said it is devastated by the tragedy and is fully cooperating with authorities. The ride remains closed and the resort said it cannot comment further because of the ongoing investigation. Theme park consultant Dennis Spiegel called the autopsy shocking and said it raises a question about whether the accident was caused by the ride or the rider. Epic Universe opened in May as Universal Orlando's 4th park. Since then, there have been 3 other reported incidents at the park. Heavy rain caused flooding and mudslides in parts of Southern California, burying roads, damaging homes, and trapping drivers. A major mudslide in Oak Glen on Thursday afternoon closed roads, trapped cars, and knocked down power lines. Aerial footage showed mud and debris sweeping through neighborhoods. Other areas affected include Forest Falls and Potato Canyon in San Bernardino County, officials said, and CAL FIRE warned residents to stay out of the area or shelter in place while crews assess the damage. Authorities say people should avoid the affected communities until it is safe to travel. Authorities are investigating the death of 15-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez, whose dismembered remains were found in the trunk of a Tesla registered to R&B artist David Anthony Burke, known as David. Rivas was last seen in April 2024 when she was still 13 years old. A former teacher said the teen had run away earlier that year after connecting with Burke on social media. At the time, authorities located her and returned her to her mother. The teacher described the case as a cautionary tale about the dangers of social media, telling students that young people can be vulnerable online. The Tesla abandoned in the Hollywood Hills was impounded for about 5 days before an employee reported a foul odor. LAPD executed a search warrant on Wednesday at a Hollywood Hills residence linked to Burke, recovering several items of evidence. No arrests have been made, and it's unclear if Burke is cooperating with investigators. Interscope, in the meantime, the singer's record label, has suspended promotion of his upcoming album out of respect for the ongoing investigation. Authorities are urging anyone with information to contact LAPD. A 6-minute strip search turned violent for Jarius Brown at the DeSoto Parish Detention Center in Louisiana. By the end, Brown had a broken nose, a fractured eye socket, and a badly swollen face. Never before published footage shows 2 deputies striking Brown around 50 times in the laundry room while he was handcuffed and naked. One deputy resigned and the other was suspended. Internal records show the sheriff's office concluded the attack couldn't be defended.
This went beyond excessive. This is something I would refer to as being brutalized. The inmate was brutalized by the officers, and there was no reason to throw the number of punches that they did.
Despite the graphic evidence, the Louisiana State Police initially cleared the deputies, siding with their claim that Brown had been the aggressor. Federal prosecutors later disagreed, concluding Brown was the victim of excessive force. Former Deputy Javarea Pouncey served 3 years in federal prison for using excessive force. DeMarcus Grant, who obstructed justice, served 10 months. Neither commented on the incident. Walmart's online marketplace is booming, but some third-party sellers are selling counterfeit products, including potentially dangerous beauty and health items. Shoppers have reported buying fake goods that look real, sometimes using the identities of legitimate businesses without permission. Lab tests confirmed many of these items were counterfeit. The rise in fakes comes as Walmart expanded its marketplace quickly and used less strict rules to onboard sellers, aiming to compete with Amazon. Former employees say this made it easier for bad actors to sell fakes. Walmart says it enforces a zero-tolerance policy and has added new vetting for beauty and personal care products. Still, legal experts warn the platform's rapid growth and consumer trust make it confusing who is responsible if something goes wrong. Walmart says it's investing in new tools to protect customers and remove fake listings. And that is all for now. The top stories of the day, no fluff and straight to the point. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and drop a comment. I'm Kat Pokras, and I'll see you next time.